Jake.
Welcome back, everyone. Over the weekend, Katie and I saw the new Superman film, and we thought it would be a cool movie to talk about. Yeah, I don't know. We can just talk about our what we felt. I actually have no idea how you think about it. We've not had a chance to debrief personally, so I'm actually quite interested to know. I think it's fair to say that neither of us are massive DC fans or like in the world comic books, honestly. I know we've both enjoyed some of the Marvel films, but yeah, it was not kind of outside my wheelhouse. So I had some thoughts.
I I think so too. I mean, we do love the movies. I love the Marvel movies. I fell in love with Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man. So,
Right.
a lot of love for the movies and of course loved Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. So, we're
Yeah,
familiar
that's
with
true.
it,
That's
but
true. Yeah.
it is a fair point though that this is not our wheelhouse. We're not, massive comic book fans. So, take our good take with a grain of salt. But yes, I want to hear your thoughts. Let's dive right in with start with first impressions.
So ultimately, I actually really liked the movie. I went in with no expectations. I actually thought I was going to hate it. James Gunn, the guy who directed it, he did those Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and I think those are actually the best of the MCU films, aside from like the first wave of like Iron Man 1 and etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had no expectations going in. I thought it was going to be kind of I don't know, like just very simple, and it was. Like the things that I was worried I wasn't gonna like about it are actually what I ended up liking about it, especially coming off of Henry Cavill's Superman, which was like the Zack Snyder DC stuff, like much more gritty and
Super
dark, no
dark.
colors. This one is super colorful. And so
So,
the
what did
first
you like
30
about it
minutes,
that you thought you didn't?
it was the humor. It was very
Mm-hmm.
much like Guardians of the Galaxy level humor, very like cheesy. And when it kicked off, the first 30 minutes, like the same bright colors, the color palette, the cheesy, lighthearted, I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I expected. But surprisingly, it grew on me. I thought that the dog, I didn't think I was going to like the inclusion of the dog because I could see it coming, like it was going to be the comic relief,
Yeah.
crypto. But it turned out like as it went on, I was like, like this is actually quite fun. Like it's fun, it's sweet, it's really lighthearted. It doesn't take itself in my mind seriously. And maybe
Yeah.
that's why I ended up kind of enjoying it. Whereas like the theater that I was in, people were laughing along, and I think that also just kind of like the movie theater experience, you just kind of boosts. You kind of feel what the crowd is feeling. So that
Especially in
probably played a
superhero
part.
movies, I feel like the
Definitely.
crowd is always so interactive and engaged.
Yeah, so I watched this on my laptop, what just one random night, probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much, but it was just fun. I'm not going to think about this in 2 weeks' time, but it was just a really good popcorn flick. I don't know his name, I should have looked it up. I think the actor who played Superman, though he's like a naive guy, and I don't know if that's true to who Superman usually is. Like that kind of grated me at first, but. It was just really sweet. I don't know. Maybe it was just sweet. It was sweet like sugar.
Well, that's a very sweet take, isn't it? I'm glad you went first because everything you said is so true. And I also didn't go in with high expectations, but, and again, I'm not a massive comic book fan, but my interpretation of Superman was always that he was this confident, otherworldly, kind of arrogant superhero. And so it is cool to see this younger take on it. And I think that is kind of the point. They're starting this new Superman series, presumably. So, starting people younger maybe makes sense. But that was a kind of gripe I had with the whole movie. Like Lex Luthor also was amazing. Nicholas Holt, I think his name is, but the actor was amazing. He did a great job, but he didn't feel very scary or intimidating or
Mhm.
powerful. And I didn't like that Superman didn't feel as infallible as he usually did in like the cartoons that I would watch. But that
I,
said, it's a really fun movie. You're totally right, and you really get that experience right from the start of the film.
I agree with the infallibility because he gets his ass kicked throughout the entire thing, which I think is nice. I don't ultimately I kind of agree with that. I don't think I liked it, but I understand perhaps why because he's probably Superman has to be perhaps the hardest superhero to do a movie about because he's Superman, like barring
Mm-hmm.
kryptonite, he's immortal. And so how do you face off? How do you have him actually be threatened?
Yeah,
Lex Luthor was interesting. He wasn't like the usual like I don't know. He was much better than Jesse Eisenberg's version in the Zack Snyder films. I don't know if you
agreed.
saw those, like the
Yes.
sniveling little. Um, he looked the part. I thought it was really interesting because like how do you have them actually match up? So it was really cool, and I thought it was very clever of them to set up their fights as Lex Luthor treating it as a chess match,
Right.
essentially. Like A5, D7.
Brain over
Um,
brawn.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I thought it's like, that's a good way for them to actually fight because clearly Superman could just, with a twist of his wrist, like rip his head off. No, he would never do
Right.
that. Um,
Would he?
but yeah, I don't know.
Saving
Certainly not
squirrels in
this
this
one.
movie. Yeah, this guy was
And
almost too sweet.
I also kind of liked how it wasn't another origin story. Like it starts off, he's been Superman for 3 years. I think we all know who Clark Kent is. We don't
Hmm.
necessarily need the Smallville kind of backstory. Um, Yeah, I don't know. Did you like how they just kind of picked it up running in a sense? Like, would you have rather have had a more origin tale?
I don't know. I was kind of missing the origin tale. I think what you said is completely accurate, though. We've seen so many of these, and we just came off those recent Snyder Superman movies, so I totally understand why they didn't. But I did feel like some of the emotion of it all was missing for me because we didn't have that origin and backstory. I wanted to more understand, even though we all know Lex Luthor hates Batman, Superman, we all know the nemesis there. It would be nice to understand it a little bit more. In the film, it didn't come through that much. I know it's not a big point of it, and I really liked Lois, especially the beginning when she was interviewing Superman and he was
Hmm.
getting so heated. I really loved that scene. But they didn't have time to build much of their relationship. I don't know. I like the origin stuff because I do I like the action of a superhero movie, but I really go for the story. And I would have liked to see more of that, but I completely understand why they didn't do it. And I think that they did do a good enough job of explaining the backstory throughout the movie, to your point of how Lex Luthor had been training and watching Superman's moves to such a point that he was able to create not only a response and a way to fight him, but then at the end, when you have that reveal of, I don't know if we're doing spoilers, but of the clone of Superman and that
Hmm.
epic fight he has with himself. And as a random aside, I guess I really saw this as a Marvel movie because when they revealed clone Superman, I was like, is that Bucky Barnes? And I fully thought it was Winter
It's
Soldier
like
for
you're
like
just
5 seconds.
invested, yeah, in the world of the comic book. But honestly, like that's not a major plot point, I don't think. Like it's not treated as a serious plot point.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just
but
another action scene.
I kind of understand what you're saying with about like the disadvantage of not starting from the beginning, and that is because the most grounding element of Superman is the ma and pa, Martha,
Yeah.
and what Jonathan. I don't know what the
Who
father's
does?
name is, the
Pa.
adoptive father. Yeah, Pa, and that is like what roots Clark Kent as a human, and he's here. He kind of has like and understandably a great love for his biological parents, and they put the robots, which are funny. I thought they were funny, putting on like their little message to soothe him, in the Fortress of Solitude. But nevertheless, like I think that the moments that Clark and his and Ma and Pa had together were great. But
Mm-hmm.
you're right, you kind of miss out on like the actors did a great job, but still, you miss out on some of that grounding world building.
Backstory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. And I went into this movie like you with not a ton of expectations. I knew James Gunn had done the Guardians movies, but it did disappoint me a bit that this movie didn't really have any grit at all and really felt like a Marvel movie and not a DC movie.
Hmm.
Um, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I think the way you described it at the beginning is very true and honestly made me feel like I liked this movie more than I was initially thinking. But there were so many Marvel style scenes, and it kind of felt
Not to
too
interrupt
jokey
you,
at
but
times.
like the scene that as you said this that immediately came to mind, and I actually
I know what you're
enjoyed the scene.
thinking.
But is it the dimensional imp one?
Yes,
It's when
where
when
they're
he's like
fighting
sitting
him
in
in
the
the back.
chair. Yes, and he's like, no, they got it. Like I was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
straight out of Guardians. Like, and,
and I
and I
loved
enjoyed
it. It
that
was so
joke. Like,
funny.
yeah. And there's just like this fight going on. Also, like we haven't touched on them, but the Justice Gang. At first, I hated the guy who played Green Lantern, but again, as it went on, I think it's Nathan Fillion,
It is. It
or
took me like half
yeah.
the movie to realize that.
So
The
at first, I was like,
haircut
oh,
is.
but it's atrocious and like the gold tooth. But again, like they played it well enough. It's like okay, like it's not taking itself seriously. Like you're supposed to be kind of off
Mhm.
put by them. And Mr. Fantastic was fine. I didn't really have an opinion here or
Mr.
there. And same
Terrific,
with
I think you
Hawkgirl.
mean.
Oh yeah, Mr. Fan, of course, yeah. I'm just thinking of Fantastic Four. Yeah,
Hold that
Mr.
for
Well,
next
there you
week when
go.
we say Fantastic Four. But
Yeah.
Yeah, wait, what were you saying about Mr. Terrific? His
Just
ability is
not
kind of cool.
terrific. What was the ability? Like, what is it? He can sit in a chair and send out orbs? Like, I don't
I
know.
mean, oh my goodness.
Yes,
Yeah, it was odd. I thought
ponder
they
a
were
few
going for like
orbs.
a Professor X kind of thing. Like, I have this chair, it's part of me, I'm limited with mobility, but like I've created this beautiful chair. And then he just gets out of it and starts walking around. And it's like, what?
It's like- yeah, no, yeah. So like they're fine. I think they were a good addition, and they're clearly obviously setting the stage because they're just everyone knows that there are superheroes. I don't even really know what a metahuman is in this world. I guess that is what superheroes are. So
Right.
if they introduce geez, I really don't know so many DC superheroes, but like they're just meta humans. I suppose that's what it means. Yeah, so they were fine. That was fun. But yeah, anyways, to your point, very Marvel-esque. Like it really fits well in that kind of, which I don't know if that's good. Like I feel like they should kind of go their own way. But
I agree.
I was sold at least in this instance. So
Well, I think your first impression was totally legit and similar to how I felt, but the only dissimilarity is that it kind of disappointed me because it's not what I was expecting. And I think if I had gone into it and understood more what the movie was going to be about, I would have liked it more. I loved the dog. I loved the funny moments, but it kind of took me out of the fact that this is a Superman movie. I go to Superman expecting to see this infallible, kind of arrogant superhero that can just destroy anything. And I like the way they set up the villain and the way Lex Luthor was able to combat Superman, but I I wanted a little bit more grit.
yeah, and fair enough. Like I think I can understand. And that's like I said, for the first 30 minutes, that was also what I thought I was missing out. I kept thinking back of like the Henry Cavill film when he's on the
Yes.
fisherman boat in the rain, and it was like you're just yeah, they're very different
It's
movies.
dark.
They might as well yeah, they're very different.
But it did feel very targeted to kids, and there were kids in my theater losing it laughing, and I loved the use of the dog, and overall a good popcorn flick. All right, so let's dive into our favorite moments from the movie. Mine are kind of twofold. First of all, in lieu of a favorite moment, my favorite part of the movie was the look and feel that we are in the Superman universe. We're in Metropolis. The old school Superman music,
Yeah.
perfect use. The outfits, the actor who played Superman totally looked the part. I loved that. I loved that it was bright. So I know I said I wanted gritty, but the bright visuals were perfect. It was just
Hmm.
exactly what I was looking for. It was eye candy. And there is a scene where there's some destruction happening. Superman's saving the day, and he flies out of the smoke and kind of looks ominous and eerie. And it was my favorite shot of the whole film.
Yes, yes,
That
I think I
said,
know. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you remember the moment. Like he flies right up, the bridge is broken, and it's beautiful.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But that said, my actual favorite scene looked like it was straight out of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was when they were on the beach and Mr. Terrific protected Lois in a dome while he was fighting everybody, and the music was playing. And it was literally straight out of a Guardians film, but my
Exactly.
favorite
Like
scene.
Peter Quill just puts on his Walkman and then
Yeah,
yeah, exactly, yeah. But it played off really well. Yeah, I agree that your point about Metropolis, like you're exactly right. I didn't think of it in that context, but you do pick like kind of greenish. I don't know why,
mm-hmm.
shiny.
So bright.
Yeah, bright, exactly. So no, I think that did suit the whole theme very well. For my part, my favorite moment was actually when Clark returns home, his real home, and and he's sitting on outside on their bench, and the
Oh,
paw
yes.
comes out, and he's having his little internal crises, and the actor who played Mr. Kent, the elder Kent, um, was I don't know, I've never seen him in anything before, I don't think. Anyways, I like that fact, but he played it so nicely. He was like, I'm proud of like like I'm so proud of you, whatever. It was like I was actually kind of like, geez, like I've never. These movies
Crying in a
rarely
Superman
move
movie?
like rarely do I get the heartstrings pulled out, but that really touched me. I thought that was really touching me. I was like, okay, there's some heart, like more than some. There's a lot of heart in this film, and I think that was the moment that showed it the most.
Agreed. That was a beautiful scene. Okay, in terms of least favorite moments, I don't know that I had one moment that really stood out. I just felt like I wanted a little bit more, just a little more backstory on this Superman that we're gonna clearly follow along on what I assume is gonna be a multi-movie arc. A little more understanding of that. But yeah, I don't know. I think overall it did its job, and there's not really anything I'd call it as my least favorite moment. What about you?
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. As for like a moment, I kind of agree. The thing I didn't like about the movie overall was actually, as you mentioned, the clone of Superman.
Yeah.
I thought that was so stupid. Um, and the reason for it is one, it's a kind of tired idea. Immediately I thought of like Logan. You know how
Yes.
in the Wolverine,
I had the
yeah.
same thought. And they did
So
it
I
better in
thought that,
Logan,
and
so why
oh,
touch
way
it if
better,
you're
way
not going to do
infinitely
it
better.
better?
And it's like there was no build, there was nothing for it. So like, and my thinking is like, okay, like, and this is my problem, as I mentioned earlier, with Superman, just in general, is like, how do you have someone who can fight Superman? Like, you need it to be Superman. So I
Right.
get why they have to do it, but it's like also like, where do you go? Again, I'm not well versed in the DC villains, so, but again, I was just like. This seems like a cop out. You need to have some big epic battle, and who's it going to be against? A clone of yourself. And the
Right.
fight was fine. It wasn't spectacular. I didn't actually like any of the villains. Like Lex Luthor was I thought well played, but the girl like with the medal, and
Oh, right.
the other guy who I'm just blanking on. Just I didn't like any of them. I thought that they were
Yeah,
so
they were
uninteresting. The most
forgettable.
uninteresting parts of the film was actually the villains.
Well, I
So
think they
that I
wanted
think
to
that was the
let
weakest part.
That's totally fair. I think they wanted Lex Luthor to stand as like the main villain, and he
Yes,
did a
I
great
think
job
so
of
too.
that. But yeah, I agree. It was gimmicky, and they had a really cool thing going with the chess game that you brought up earlier with Lex
Hmm.
Luthor, knowing the moves and like plotting them out in advance. So, I wish they'd gone in
Yeah.
a different direction there. That's a good point. All right. Well, I think we've covered most of it. Let's get into our overall rating. So, out of 10, what would you rate Superman?
It's tough. I mean, there's some recency bias, so I'm going to take that into account. It was fun. I will probably, unless someone like wants to, never watch it again. Not because I didn't like it, but it's fun. I would say a 7.5.
Okay. I was going to say like a 6.
Yeah.
Because I feel the same. I don't think I'd watch it again. It's not that memorable. I saw it a couple days ago and I'm already blanking on it, but I thought visually it was very well done, beautiful, eye
Hmm.
candy. Okay, so if we combine them together, you know what? I'll go up to a 6.5 because there were some really
Make it
good
easy.
moments, and I can't even call it a least favorite part. So let me throw them a bone with that half point, and we'll round that off with our good takes rating at a 7 out of 10 for Superman.
Yeah, I don't know. It was good. I guess I'm excited to see what they do with the DC stuff. Not really involved in that world, but I'll probably tune in for the next one that they decide to do. Just I think they have a good foundation.
Yeah, agreed. Let's see how it goes. And I think if you've already seen the movie, would love to hear your thoughts. Let us know what we got wrong or where you agree or disagree. If you haven't seen it yet, I know there've been some spoilers here, but honestly, it's not the kind of movie that's gonna have some big plot twist. There's no Kaiser
No.
Soze, so go have fun anyway. And I think it's worth watching. And if you're gonna do it, go see it in theaters because that's the way it needs to be
Definitely. Fair.
watched.
Yeah, I fully agreed.
All right, well that's it for now. We'll see y'all next time.